How to know which content to double down on. This is really important for anybody who's looking to build their brand or their audience online, especially when you have a limited budget or time to work with. Creating content is a headache. It's a nightmare between coming up with the topic, filming the thing, editing the thing, putting it up there for people to see, and hoping that it does well. It's just stressful and chaotic. But there's this hack that not very many people are using called content recycling, and it's as simple as this. First, you are going to have to create and post as much content as you possibly can. Yes, this is just the nature of the beast. We're going to have to start right there. But then every 30 to 90 days, you can look at the analytics to determine which posts are actually doing the best. And then the third step is recycle or reuse your best content. Again, since we know it works. And you're probably thinking, really? Reuse the same content? That's like cheating, right? No, it's not cheating. And yes, I'm saying reuse your past content. I mean, think about it. Coming up with new content to post can be really hard to do consistently. In fact, it's the main reason that people end up passing by this huge opportunity sitting right in front of them. You see, recycling your best performing content has a handful of advantages. Obviously, it's way less work on you because you've already created it before. You also know that there's greater chances of high engagement based on the previous track record. And because of that previous past performance, it notes to you that it's a high value piece of content for your audience. When you have new followers, new people coming into your community, onto your channels, following you on the different places that you exist online, they're new. They didn't see the stuff that you posted several months ago. So why not give them an opportunity to see it as well? It's great for your new audience. And it also does help steer the direction of new and future content that you'll inevitably create as you move forward. And last week I dropped a video where we introduced this topic initially and talked about what percentage of content that you're going to want to scrape off of the top as your top performers. We looked at charts and all sorts of other good information that definitely piggybacks on what we're talking about today. So check the link in the description if you're interested in watching that as well. But let's jump right back in and look at the two different approaches to reposting your recycled content. There's really two ways that you can go about this. You can, if the platform allows for it, just straight up copy and paste your top performing content to use at a later date. Or you can start to make slight tweaks in an effort to maximize the impact of a particular piece of content. But there are reposting rules for each platform that you're going to need to follow. For instance, with YouTube, you can't upload the same video file twice. So if this video seems to do really well and it's a top performing piece that I'd like to recycle, I couldn't just take the same video file from my hard drive and re-upload it. It just wouldn't work. A straight up repost is just not advised. It's going to get you in trouble. However, on YouTube, you can repurpose your long videos like this into shorts, which is something I do every single week, or vice versa. It doesn't seem to have a negative impact on your channel. Like I said, I do this weekly with no issues at all, and so do a lot of other people. But then on a different platform like X, formerly known as Twitter, you can repost or retweet to your heart's desire without getting in trouble with Elon. The rules and algorithms change often, so be mindful of this when considering your repurposing strategy. Now, if you choose to go along the path of making some slight tweaks to a top performing content to see if it'll do better, here's some areas where you can start to make those modifications. First off, in the title or the caption. And there's a handful of things you can do. You can look at character length. Short and sweet typically works really well. You can look at the format or the style. Are you using all capitalization? Are you using punctuation, etc.? Or also the hook, like are you sparking curiosity, intrigue, or excitement with that title or the caption? You can start to tinker with those things as you go through recycling the second or third time around with your top pieces of content. Or you can look at modifying the first frame or the cover image of your content. This is that visual representation that goes along with the title or caption that you have. Starting to go off of that, it's back to that curiosity thing. Does the visual thing that they see, whether it's the thumbnail for a YouTube video or that first frame of a reel or a YouTube short, is it sparking curiosity? Is it making people want to click so they can figure out what happens? You can start to modify those things. Or even the length of the post. How many slides are in the carousel if you're doing that? How long is the reel? Is it closer to 60 seconds or is it more like 10 to 15 seconds? And then on the text-based platforms, you're looking at maybe a thread versus a long post. A thread being something where it's a bunch of short posts that are all tied together versus just one cohesive thought in a longer post. For instance, on X now, I think it's 25,000 characters if you're a Twitter Blue member, where you can make these long posts, whereas you couldn't do that before. So tweak little things in small increments. You don't have to reinvent the whole thing, especially because we know it's already a top performing post for you. And a little tip for you is this also does go beyond modifying your existing content. You can use your top performers as the guide to the new content that you make to increase the odds of another high-performing upload. But based off of this, what we really need to look at first is how do we determine what content is technically doing best for us? So let's discuss the important marketing term of KPIs, also known as key performance indicators. And these are the metrics that we want to pay attention to. You see, KPIs are the pre-selected analytic metrics that you choose to use as your guidepost to know whether something is performing well or not. And while each social media platform has their own set of metrics to track, let's take a look at this chart for an overview of the most common metrics that people track. The first metric is something called reach, which is the total number of people who had your content in front of their eyes at one point. The next one is impressions, and this gets confused with reach a lot of times, but impressions is the number of times that your content was seen in total. So think about, some people may see your content more than once in their feed, so that would be the difference between reach, because that's just one person, but they may have 3 or 4 impressions. So you can see how those numbers can start to look different pretty quickly. You also have likes, reactions, saves. This is the total number of those thumbs ups or hearts that you get on your content. Another metric that is really engagement-based is comments. This is the number of comments or replies that were left on your post. And then we have reposts, the number of times your content was then reposted by another account. We also have shares, which is kind of similar to that, which is the number of times that your content was shared by others to their audience or their contacts. And then we get into subscribes and follows, which is the number of people who chose to subscribe or follow you on a social media account from that content's posts. Then we have profile visits, which is the number of times that your profile or your channel was navigated to based off a piece of content. And then zooming out and looking at this from a little bit of a different angle, we have total engagement, which would be the total number of likes, comments, replies, shares, etc. How many times did people interact with your content outside of just viewing it? And the last 3 here are getting into a little bit of math, but these percentages, these averages are really important for us. The first one is engagement rate. So we just talked about total engagement, which is just a total number. But with engagement rate, we're looking at the percentage, which is really your total engagement number divided by the total reach. What percentage of the people that saw your stuff actually engaged with it? That's a very important metric to track. And if you're doing video, you'll like this one. It's really important here on YouTube, is the average view duration. This is just the average amount of time that viewers spend watching our particular video. If your average view duration is low, that means you're not getting a whole lot of total watch time. People aren't sticking around very long. That's definitely something you want to work on increasing. And the final one in this chart for today, there's plenty of other metrics that we could go over, but this is just a quick overview. Something called click-through rate, or CTR, which is the total number of clicks divided by the total impressions. Out of all of the people that saw your stuff, how many people actually clicked to watch it? And on a platform like YouTube, it's pretty obvious that this is important, and looking at your click-through rate definitely helps you measure the success of your titling, your thumbnails, things like that. Whereas something like on LinkedIn, for instance, you're not going to see this metric because in most cases, when you're in their feed, your content is right there. They don't necessarily have to click on something to get your content every single time. So it just depends on the platform that you're on. And something really important that we really need to highlight real quick when we're talking about analytics and the metrics that we want to track to determine whether our content is doing well or not doing so well is recognizing that some of these metrics are specific to the post itself, the performance of that post, that piece of content, while other metrics are going to be around overall channel performance across a given time period. Some of these metrics you can do at a post level and at a channel or an account level, but then some of them are specific to either or. But for us today, with the purpose of looking at what content we should be recycling, we want to look at this post-specific metrics in order to know which ones are doing well and which ones aren't. Which leads us perfectly into the very next thing you're going to need, and that is some tools, some systems to help you actually parse through this data and figure it out. And I have something to give away to you as well. So one thing that I know is really tough from my own experience is no matter where you're pulling your data from, wherever you're gathering your analytics, it can be really hard to, number one, be able to filter through that stuff and then be able to set it aside in some sort of note-taking system where you can then start to break down that data and determine how you want to recycle, whether it's straight up copy paste or you start to make some of those tweaks like we talked about earlier. So I created this database, which link in the description. You can go ahead and grab that for yourself. It's completely free to use. It's for you. I use it myself as well. And this is going to be that thing where you can pull from other tools and dump your best top performing posts into this database so that it sits separate and you can start to build that up over time. So make sure you go grab that and take advantage of it. Hey, real quick. As part of my business model, one of my big goals with this content is to monetize in a way that's unobtrusive yet valuable to you, but in a way that also supports my little solo operation that I've got going on here. So with that, give me a quick 60 seconds to share one of my current offers with you. And if you're interested in it, head over to evanshank.com or tap the link in the description below. And as always, thank you for being here. Introducing the Content Creation Toolbox, built to help you create, manage, and schedule pillar content like podcasts, email newsletters, and more. The perfect solution to kill the chaos and help you build your business so you can ultimately live life on your own terms. The multi-database system makes it a breeze to repurpose any piece of pillar content into micro content made perfect for your preferred social media pages. With pre-built templates for each content format, you can finally say goodbye to writer's block for good. Additionally, using the pre-written AI prompts that are provided, you'll easily be able to expand your content to have more impact on your business and audience growth. I also have a few other tools that I can recommend from my own experience that I think may help you in this process as well. The first one's called Hype Fury, and what it does is it makes it super easy to auto repost or retweet, and it allows you to select evergreen posts that can stay in the upload rotation for longer periods of time. Now, Hype Fury is specific to X, aka Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. But those are the two platforms. If you're heavy on those platforms, Hype Fury is rock solid. So if you're interested in giving that a shot, I have a quick link that you can click on in the description below so you can try it out for yourself. The next tool that I would recommend is kind of like an aggregation software. It brings all of your different social media analytics together into one place, and it's called Metricool. It's the newest addition to my content arsenal, but it's proven to be a simple yet powerful social media analytics tool that has tons of great reviews. People seem to really love it. So I'm excited to incorporate this into my system as it helps fuel my content recycling situation as well. And the last ones I'll recommend for today are completely free. And if you have accounts on these platforms, you'll be able to access them almost immediately. The first one is YouTube Studio. If you have a YouTube channel, you can get YouTube Studio completely free. And it's super useful. There's a ton of data, and it's really going to help you understand what's doing well and what's not. There's way more data, honestly, than anybody really needs, especially at the level that we're probably both at with our content creation journey. But make sure you're using YouTube Studio to get accurate information on your YouTube channel performance and the content that you're posting as well. The other one, very similar to that, is for Meta. It's called Meta Business Suite. So this is the parent company that owns Facebook and Instagram. Yes, Zuckerberg has them both now, if you weren't aware yet. But you can go ahead and grab a Meta Business Suite account and then link it up with the profiles that you have on either one of those social platforms. And again, tons of data in there. And they're absolutely worth familiarizing yourself, both Meta Business Suite and YouTube Studio. Both of those tools are really, really good. In fact, they're so good that it becomes a little bit overwhelming and chaotic. And for most of us, it's just like you just want the basic KPIs like what we talked about before. We don't need every single metric under the sun. We can just get swallowed up in that sea of data. And that's why I suggest get familiar with those platforms. And then what you do is you just take the data that you care about the most and you bring it over into the database that I'm offering for free so that you have specific top performing posts set aside. And it's very easy for you to then act on that in the recycling strategy. So now with your KPIs in hand and knowing what tools to use to help you actually start recycling your best content, here's the simple steps. First off, measure your top posts every 30 to 90 days. Whichever you choose, just pick a routine and stay consistent. And most of the time, I'm going to suggest every 30 days, check in on what's going on. The very next thing is to grab the top 5 to 20% of your posts sorted by your preferred KPIs. And whether you grab your top 5% or top 20%, that's something we really uncovered in our last video from last week that you can check out immediately following this to help you determine how much of your content you should be scraping off the top. But that's what we're going to do is take that percentage and sort it by the preferred KPIs, the things that mean the most to us, that matter the most for what we're trying to do. And then you're simply going to take that data and put it over into the top performers database. Then you can just set a future reminder or go ahead and reschedule them to fire off again in about 3 to 6 months. Or you can start to make those slight tweaks like we talked about to increase the chances of improving the performance of that post. So what starts to happen really quick is that top performers database that I gave you will continually be added to every 30 to 90 days. So the content bank of recyclable material will start to stack up pretty fast. And gradually, over time, your following and overall performance metrics will begin to climb. And as this happens, the bar continually raises on what is considered a top performing post. We're basically competing with ourselves. We're increasing our skill set. We're getting better at the topics that we're talking on the way that we edit our content, on the way that we title it, thumbnail, whatever the content type is, we're competing with ourselves to become a little bit better each time. And as we wrap this up today, it's an important note for us to have here is that you need to be sure to do your own research at a platform specific level before choosing to recycle content with no edits to the file or the caption or whatever it may be. Like I'd mentioned earlier, social media platforms are constantly changing their rules about this. And at the end of the day, recycling content is just one method to keep your posting frequency up. That's kind of the whole purpose, so that we can be out there competing for the attention online, so we can build our brand and our audience. Recycling is not an excuse ever for never creating fresh content again. This is just to be added into the mix of what you're already doing. In fact, using a system to filter out your best performing content will, more importantly, help you to know what content topics and types to double down on when creating in the future. That's all I got for you this week. Make sure you grab the tools that are linked down below, start putting this stuff into practice, and you'll be able to quickly come up with more content to be posting, and it's going to influence what you create coming up as well. This is going to help you build your brand and your audience, and the content performance is just going to skyrocket. Time to recycle. Until next time, peace. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more content on this channel ready for you right now. If you're catching this on YouTube, consider dropping a like and be sure to hit the subscribe button before you leave, because that simple action exponentially helps this channel grow. I value your time and attention, so thank you for sticking around. You're the best. And until next time, peace.